can read. The higher and the lower knowledge, right?
Yes, the higher and the lower knowledge.
Go ahead.
We have now completed our view of the path of knowledge and seen to what it leads. First, the end of yoga of knowledge is God possession. It is to possess God and be possessed by Him through consciousness, through identification, through reflection of the divine reality, but not merely in some abstraction away from our present existence, but here also, therefore, to possess the divine in himself, the divine in the world, the divine within, the divine in all things and all beings. It is to possess oneness with God, and through that to possess oneness with the universal, with the cosmos and all existences. Therefore, to possess the infinite diversity also in the oneness, but on the basis of oneness and not on the basis of division. It is to possess God in his personality and his impersonality, in his purity free from qualities and his infinite qualities, in time and beyond time, in his action and in his silence, in the finite and in the infinite. It is to possess him not only in pure self, but in all self, not only in self, but in nature, not only in spirit, but in supermind, mind, life, and body, to possess him with the spirit, with the mind, with the vital and the physical consciousness. And it is again from all these to be possessed by him, so that our whole being is one with him, full of him, governed and driven by him. It is, since God is oneness, for our physical consciousness to be one with the soul and the nature of the material universe, for our life to be one with all life, for our mind to be one with the universal mind, for our spirit to be identified with the universal spirit. It is to merge in him, in the absolute, and find him in all relations.
Okay. So, what a description. We are so far away from all that. To be one with God, mind, vital, and body, to be one with Him in the universe and the divine. We'll look at what He's saying. Because sometimes He uses words in a different way. So that's why we'll identify what He's saying. We have now completed our view of the path of knowledge, Jnana Yoga. Okay, so soon he'll be starting. Bhakti Yoga will come later on, and integral yoga will come last. Okay, so this is the Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga he has done first. Then we are in the Yoga of knowledge, Jnana Yoga. Then he will come to Bhakti Yoga, and finally 4 parts in the synthesis of yoga. Apart from the introduction that we have, about 50-60 pages. So we have now completed our view of the path of knowledge and seen to what it leads. First, the end of the yoga of knowledge is God possession. And he explains what is possession. It is to possess God and be possessed by him through consciousness, through identification, through reflection of the divine reality. So now let's understand what he's saying. First of all, God possession. It is to possess God. When you possess God, you are God himself. And you have the powers that God has. So that's one. And be possessed by him. When he possesses you, he can do what he wants with you. Therefore, it is the path of surrender. Okay? Because if you surrender to him, he will possess you. So this we have to understand. Yoga, God, to possess God is to have the powers of God. And to be possessed by him is to surrender. So, in fact, in the record of yoga, Sri Aurobindo says something very interesting which is reflected here. He says, you have to be master and at the same time also a slave. Okay. Aishwaryam and Dasyam. So Aishwaryam, you are Ishvara. You possess God. And Dasyam, he possesses you. Okay? And they are not inconsistent with each other. That's the whole point. When you surrender to the divine, he gives you all his powers. It's not opposite. Very interesting. If you look, this Shlombo's very, very characteristic way of seeing things is through oxymorons, opposites. And he always combines the opposites. He is doing the same here. Okay? Possess God, you have all the power that he has because you possess God. And be possessed by him, the path of surrender. In other words, Aishwaryam and Dasyam also. And that also not in only in one way. It can be done through consciousness. Your consciousness possesses God's consciousness. Through identification. Identification, completely you become God. And through reflection of the divine reality. Now that's very interesting. What do you mean by reflection of the divine reality? At a lower level, if you remember, at the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness, you do not see the reality, but you see only the reflection of reality in level 2. You remember that? Keep these things in mind. You don't see the reality in level 2. You only see by reflection, you see the divine. When your mind becomes silent, it's reflected in your mind. Okay? So that's what it means. In other words, it means that at the highest level, you are with God. At the middle level, you are with God. And the lower level also, you are with God. That's what it means. Transcendental, cosmic, and individual. Okay? So, see words, how he's using. You must remember that reflection is possible only at level 2. Okay? So, if you remember that, you will understand what he's saying. Totally, you have to possess God. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay? That's what he's saying. But not merely in some abstraction, away from our present existence. Present existence, level 1. But here also means in the physical world. You see the physical in the physical. Now we are explaining what he means by here also. Therefore, to possess the divine in himself, the divine in the world, the divine within, the divine in all things and all beings. So, the divine in himself means only the divine without the universe, which means the transcendental. Okay? The divine in himself. Nobody else, only himself, you know. The divine in the world, the cosmic, and the divine within, the individual. The divine in all things, that's a cosmic consciousness. And all beings. Not only beings, but things also. That's a cosmic consciousness. So you have to know the divine transcendentally. Now he's putting another words. The same thing he has told you earlier through different ways, but now he's saying the same thing in different words. You have to know the divine transcendentally, cosmic, universally, as well as individually. Okay? So, the divine within, the divine in all things and all beings, that's a cosmic consciousness. It is to possess oneness with God, and through that to possess also oneness with the universal. Again, he is explaining in other words the same thing. To possess oneness with God at the highest level, and through that to possess also oneness with the universal, which is a cosmic consciousness. You feel yourself to be one with everybody else, with the cosmos and all existences. Okay? Therefore, to possess the infinite diversity also in the oneness. So now, it's not only oneness, but also diversity in the oneness. Each individual thing also you are seeing the divine consciousness. You see the whole and also the parts. But on the basis of oneness and not on the basis of division. Our level 1 experience is division, and therefore we don't see the oneness, and therefore we don't see God in it. But level 2, you start seeing the oneness, but it's only a reflection. And when you go to the third level, then it is full, complete. But on the basis of oneness and not on the basis of division. It is to possess God. See, he is going on hammering what it means to possess God in so many ways. To possess God in his personality and his impersonality. God has got so many features. So, individually also, you will feel God in his personality and his impersonality. Remember, Sri Aurobindo had the impersonality in Baroda when his mind became silent. You enter into the level 2 and you are impersonal. What is meant by impersonal? A vast peace, a vast consciousness, a vast infinity, release, freedom. This is what you see, impersonality. Sometimes you may also experience power, you may experience love, but there's nobody there. Only love for everything is there. That's the impersonal. But God in his personality. Remember what happened to Sri Aurobindo in 1926? Sri Krishna descended into his very body. 1926, 24th November. So it is to possess God in his personality, the personal, the form. Sri Krishna himself descended into Sri Aurobindo. That is what I mean by personality and impersonality. In Sri Aurobindo's case, the impersonality came first, and then the personality came later on in Pondicherry. In his purity, free from qualities. What is that? Nirguna. So, complete, a blankness. But the blankness is full of the divine. Okay? A nihil, that's the experience you can get. In his purity, free from qualities, and in his infinite qualities, saguna. In other words, everything, all the qualities that you see are only divine qualities. Okay? In time and beyond time. So in time, in the physical world, in your body, mind, life. And beyond time, level 2 and level 3. Okay? But in level 1, you have to experience the divine. That's what I'm saying. In time. Even when you are in your body, you experience the divine. In his action and in his silence. How is hammering that integral? That's why yoga is integral yoga. In his action. Because the others who are going to level 2, like the Buddhists and the Mayavadins, they don't want his action. Action is ignorance, they say. But Sri Aurobindo is saying, no, it is possible to have action like the Gita. Gita also agrees with that. In his action and in his silence. Even when you are in level 2 in the nirvana consciousness, you must feel that. That also you must experience. In the finite and in the infinite. It is to possess him not only in pure self, but in all self. Not only within yourself, but in everybody else. Not only in self, but in nature. Not only in spirit, but in supermind, mind, life, and body. So, again, he is giving the levels. It is to possess him not only in pure self, the transcendental, but in all self. Not only in self, but in nature, the cosmic. Okay? Not only in spirit, but in supermind, mind, life, body. Spirit is above supermind. Okay, remember? So, spirit, supermind, mind, life, and body. To possess him with the spirit, with the mind, with the vital, with the physical consciousness, even the physical consciousness. Okay. In other words, he says that everything that you hear, everything that you see, everything that you taste, everything that you even have sensation, everything is divine. There are 2 sonnets of Sri Aurobindo's, the divine sight and the divine hearing. The divine sight is very, everywhere you see the divine. I remind you about Sri Aurobindo experience in jail. He is saying that wherever I am seeing only Sri Krishna. He says the bars of my cell. He was in a small cell. I don't know if any of you have been to see his cell in Calcutta. If any of you go there, make it a point to go and see the cell, okay, in which he was lodged. Nowadays they don't use that cell for anybody else, but they don't use it, and there is a picture of Sri Aurobindo there, 1 or 2 pictures, and every day there is some puja being done. So it's a wonderful experience to go there and see that cell. So Sri Aurobindo is saying, I am seeing Sri Krishna in the bars, the iron bars that are in my cage. That also I am seeing Sri Krishna. When I am going out into the veranda, he is there with the tree. The tree has become Sri Krishna and is giving him shade to protect him from the sun. So this is what I mean by seeing in everywhere in nature. Okay? with a physical consciousness. And it is again for all these to be possessed by him, so that our whole being is one with him, full of him. Where is it gone? Full of him, governed and driven by him. Governed and driven, you are not doing anything. He is doing everything for you. You are a perfect slave or instrument of the divine. So you have to be master, but you have to also be the slave of divine. Okay. It is, slave is a very bad word, but to put it very dramatically, that's why we have to use the word slave. Okay. It is, since God is oneness, for our physical consciousness to be one with the soul and the nature of the material universe. Remember, he said something very interesting. What does he mean by the soul of the material universe? Nature of material universe, we understand very well. Nature of universe is universal matter, universal vitality, prana, and universal mind. These are planes of consciousness which are there, and we are small representative condensations of these universal planes of consciousness. But remember, there is also a soul. There is a soul of matter, there is a soul of prana, and there is a soul of the mental world. What is meant by that? You can take it as a divine presence in matter. That's the soul of matter. Then there is a soul of prana, so you have to be one with the nature as well as the soul in matter. Okay, in life, in my mind. For our life to be one with all life, our mind to be one with the universal mind, for our spirit to be identified with the universal spirit. The individual soul must become the universal soul. It is to merge in him in the absolute and find him in all relations. The absolute is beyond all relations, so you must know him at the highest level, absolute, and you must know him at the lowest level where relations are possible. So, what a comprehensive way of understanding God. Good God. I don't know how many, if ever anyone can experience that. Fantastic. Okay, now we read the next one. Secondly, what it means. So, Jasmine read this passage. Now, Archana, if you have got the text, you can read. Shilpa.
Yes, Rangada.
Good morning, Shilpa. Yes, Archana, read.
Secondly, it is to put on the divine being and the divine nature. And since God is Sachidanand, it is to raise our being into the divine being, our consciousness into the divine consciousness, our energy into the divine energy, our delight of existence into the divine delight of being. And it is not only to lift ourselves into this higher consciousness, but to widen into it in all our being, because it is to be found on all the planes of our existence and in all our members, so that our mental, vital, physical existence shall become full of the divine nature. Our intelligent mentality is to become a play of the divine knowledge will, our mental soul life a play of the divine love and delight, our vitality a play of the divine life, our physical a mode of the divine substance. This God action in us is to be realized by an opening of ourselves to the divine gnosis and divine ananda, and in its fullness by an ascent into and a permanent dwelling in the gnosis and the ananda. For though we live physically on the material plane and in normal outward going life, the mind and soul are preoccupied with material existence. This externality of our being is not a binding limitation. We can raise our internal consciousness from plane to plane of the relations of Purusha with Prakriti and even become, instead of the mental being dominated by the physical soul and nature, the Gnostic being or the bliss self, and assume the Gnostic or the bliss nature. And by this raising of the inner life, we can transform our whole outward going existence. Instead of a life dominated by matter, We shall then have a life dominated by spirit, with all its circumstances molded and determined by the purity of being, the consciousness infinite, even in the finite, the divine energy, the divine joy and bliss of the spirit.
The description is that even when you are living in the physical world, you can have a divine consciousness. We'll quickly go through. That's basically what he said. These are sections which I have not yet been able to summarize. I am slowly doing, but it takes some time. Later, the other things I have already done. Okay? The Bhakti Yoga and the Integral Yoga, that I have summarized. But this in the middle I have left. So I'm still at it. I'm doing every day something is being done. But this I don't have the summaries. So I'm reading each sentence. So firstly, he has said that you must know the divine fully in every way, in very short. You must know him transcendently, you must know him universally and also individually. You must see him everywhere. Then you must also see him with your mind, with your vital and your body. And also you must see him in the cosmos. So this is God possession and you have to be possessed by him, and he will also automatically, if you possess him, he will give you all his powers. Now secondly, what it means. Secondly, what he means by firstly and secondly is the result of the path of knowledge. What happens? If it is perfectly integral, what happens? So it is to put on the divine being and the divine nature. The divine being is the essence, the soul, and the divine nature. You must be both in soul and also in the physical nature. That means your body, mind, life. And since God is Satchidananda, it is to raise our being into the divine being. Our being is the soul, and the divine being is up there. So that's why he's using the word raise. Okay. Now note very interestingly, Yasmin, when you raise, you are not going into your psychic, you are going into the self. You are going vertically, you are climbing up. That gives you the liberation. Okay. So it is to raise our being into the divine being, our consciousness into the divine consciousness, our energy into the divine energy. Remember, all these planes are there: Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda. So every way you must know him, because we have to be very clear. One who experiences divine, normally in the beginning you experience only one aspect of him. You may experience the aspect of Sat. That's the being that he's talking about. Being means Sat, substance, or consciousness, Chit, okay, or energy, Shakti, or also delight. So usually they are all different. If you experience Ananda, you may not experience the Sat. You may not experience the consciousness. But you have to experience all that he said. Okay. And since God is Satchidananda, it is to raise our being into the divine being. Remember also that German philosopher Nietzsche, he experienced the power aspect of this in the self. So his whole philosophy is based on the power. So it has gone slightly wrong. As Srinivas says, he was a seer, but a blind seer, because he didn't see the totality. So Srinivas describes him as a blind seer. Okay, so that's what I mean. But now Srinivas is saying, it's not enough to know him only in being, that is Sat. It is not enough to know him only in Chit, that is consciousness. It is not enough to know him only in Shakti, energy. And it is not also enough to know him only in the as a Ananda, the delight. It's wonderful. Each experience is absolutely superb. But you must have all. Srinivas is not satisfied with only one. That's why it's the integral path. And it is not only to lift ourselves into this higher consciousness. First he used the word raise, now he used the word lift. That means vertically going up ourselves into the higher consciousness. And if you are raising yourself into the higher consciousness, you are climbing out of your body, mind, life. Remember, you feel yourself to be outside the body. Ourselves into the higher consciousness. Not only that, but to widen it in all our being. Now, this is something that Srinivas goes on saying, that very often the experiences of some people are narrow. It's only limited upwards. It's wonderful. Very high you have gone. But it is not spread itself everywhere. Okay? That is what she's saying. But to widen into it, widen into it in all our being, because it is to found on all the planes of our existence and in all our members. The planes of existence, we know, the 7 planes. Matter, life, mind, then spiritual mind, supermind. And the 4th one, which is the Turiya. The 4th is unmanifest. So, on all the planes. And members, our body, our mind, and our life. These are the members. So that our mental, vital, physical existence shall become full of the divine nature. That's what happened to Sri Aurobindo. Even his body changed to a large extent. But that's not this supermental transformation that he's talking about. Remember, supermental transformation of the body means no disease and no death. And Swayambhu, it creates itself. There's no biological creation of a Superman. The Superman creates himself and dissolves himself if necessary. So, shall become full of the divine nature. Our intelligent mentality is to become a play of the divine knowledge will. Our mental life, soul life, a play of the divine love and delight. Our vitality, a play of the divine life. Our physical being, a mold of the divine substance. Your body has to become a vessel in which the divine has poured himself. This is the description given in Savitri also. I will pour into the jug body. Okay, I'll pour my wine, he says, into your body. This God action in us is to be realized by an opening of ourselves to the divine gnosis and divine ananda. Now, note he's making a difference between the two. He's saying divine gnosis, which includes all, but there is also a pure divine ananda plane. Okay? Ananda plane, which he has discussed in the earlier chapter, if you remember. The gnosis and the ananda, they can be different. They can also be one. And in its fullness, by an ascent into and a permanent dwelling in the gnosis and the ananda. The gnosis and ananda, he has discussed in the previous chapter. For though we live physically on the material plane and in normal outward going life, the mind and soul are preoccupied with material existence. This externality of our being is not a binding limitation. So very clearly when you do yoga, you can get beyond this imprisonment of body, mind, life. The soul can escape and raise itself, as I said earlier. We can raise, again he is using the word raise, we can raise our internal consciousness from plane to plane of the relations of Purusha and Prakriti. I will explain this relation of Purusha and Prakriti because he uses this many other places also. So, know that, by the way, this raising and rising and climbing upwards and all, these are not images, they are realities. You do realize that you are in a higher level. Okay? We can raise our internal consciousness from plane to plane. Which are these planes? When you are already in level 2, you are in the higher mind. But from there you can go to the illumined mind, which is a slightly higher level. Then you can go to the intuitive mind and you can even rise to the overmind. And that's, remember, in 1926, the overmind got stabilized in him. Absolutely. Now he cannot fall below that level. Okay? It reminds me of a very interesting conversation, letter writing, correspondence with Niruddha and Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo Niruddha had an experience of a little bit of Ananda once. And then he lost it. Okay? Because it's only an experience in the beginning. So he's complaining to Sri Aurobindo and saying, Sir, I had this Ananda, but then I have lost it. Have you stolen my Ananda? So Sri Aurobindo says, I have the whole ocean and I don't need your small fish. I'm not storing your fish. Nirada uses in the correspondence, he uses it. It's full of humor. His correspondence with Nirada. Okay. It's a very special, very special correspondence. Totally different from others. And he says, you know, in a family, sometimes when you are several people, and Bengalis love fish, so when you eating fish, your small son may take one of your fish from you because he likes it very much. So he's telling Sriyamdu, have you pinched my fish? So Sriyamdu says, I have a whole ocean of fish. I don't need your small fish. So this is what he's saying. So we can raise our internal consciousness from plane to plane of the relations of Purusha with Prakriti. So everything in the physical world, all the planes of consciousness, Sriyamdu says, are defined by the relation of Purusha with Prakriti. And they are inversely proportional to each other. I'll explain what I mean. Only will take three things and then you will understand immediately. Take matter. Okay? Is there any consciousness in matter? No. So the relation between Purusha, consciousness, and Prakriti, which is energy, is Purusha 0 and Prakriti 100%. Okay, that's the relation between them. Then when you come to the animal world, a little bit of consciousness is coming in. So to put it in a very understandable way, comprehensible way, we can say that consciousness is beginning to come in, 10%, 20%, okay? And energy is still there. More mainly, animals are full of energy, okay? So that's 80%. There's a relation between Purusha and Prakriti. Then when you come to the mind, okay, the consciousness increases even more, maybe 30, okay? And most people are still only energy oriented, fighting. Then when you come to level 2 of the Nirvana consciousness, what happens? Consciousness is full, but energy is absent because it is immutable, if you remember. So the description of level 2 in the higher mind is consciousness full, energy 0. It is not there. It is not absent. It is there but held back. So this is what he means by the relation between Purusha and Prakriti. So each plane of consciousness is determined by how much of Purusha is there and how much of Prakriti is there. So as you keep climbing now from higher mind to illumined mind to intuitive mind, the consciousness goes on increasing. But in level 2 and level 3, both are there, but they are separate. There is consciousness and there is also Purusha and Prakriti, both are there, but they are separate. They are not united. In the supermind, they become absolutely one. They become united. So this is what Sriyamdu means by the relations, okay, of Purusha and Prakriti. Okay, I gave you the idea of it in matter and in mind, our normal mind, and the Nirvana plane. So now it becomes very clear what is meaning by relations. They are inversely proportional to each other. As Purusha increases, Prakriti decreases. Because it becomes absolutely 0 in the spiritual plane of consciousness, Nirvana. No? It becomes 0. No movement at all. All the physical worlds above are immutable. Power is there, but immutability is there. So, and even become, instead of mental being dominated by the physical soul and nature. Now, note interestingly, physical soul, I told you that there is a Purusha even in matter, Annamaya Purusha. The divine is there everywhere. Don't think that matter is not divine. And nature, the Gnostic being or the bliss self, and assume the Gnostic or bliss nature. And by this raising, going upwards of the inner life, we can transform our whole outward going existence. Just now I told you, even the outward going existence changes. In other words, everything that you see and you hear, okay, and taste and touch and smell, everything becomes divine. So you can, if you take the trouble of reading the two sonnets, the divine hearing and the divine sight. The divine hearing is very interesting. What he says that all sounds have become divine. For us, if I am on Skype and a motor car goes in the road, it is very disturbing. So, but Sirma is saying that all sounds are now the sounds of the divine. The screeching of the owl, the siren of the factory. When the factory is beginning, they have a siren. That also, and the auto car, the automobile going in the road, that also is a divine sound. So this is what I mean by the outward going also completely changes. So then, Ishvara mental way, he has said that. So now, and by this raising of the inner life, we can transform our whole outward going existence. So this is what it means. Everything becomes divine. Instead of a life dominated by matter, we shall then have a life dominated by spirit, with all its circumstances molded and determined by the purity of being. So it depends on how pure you are. The more pure you are, the more you will see the divine everywhere. Determined, molded and determined by the purity of being. And which is the molding and determining process? Yoga. The more intense your yoga and the more advanced your yoga, the more pure you are. The consciousness, infinite, even in the finite. The divine energy, divine joy and bliss of the spirit. At the highest level, everything becomes divine. So, written 2 paras and we have come to 8:36. So, we'll have to stop here today and next time we'll take up the next Friday. This is the goal. So, he has described.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, certainly.
You know, you said that the Superman, when he is born, he will be born not by human relationship, but he will just sort of manifest himself.
That's right.
Now, will he just manifest himself as an infant or as a fully grown man?
I didn't, can you repeat that question? I didn't exactly understand it. I couldn't hear also clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. When he manifests himself, what is the question?
When Sri Aurobindo has said that he will manifest in the first supramental body made in the supramental way.
That's right.
So, will the Superman be born as a baby or a child or as a fully grown man?
I don't think it will be baby, but that Shendra has not discussed. But I don't think it can be baby, because a baby is necessarily interesting.
The baby has to evolve and grow up.
No,
but
I don't.
This is something which is already like made.
No, because let's use logic, okay? A supramental being is already highly developed in consciousness. So I don't think it can be the baby.
Okay, he'll just manifest as a fully grown person.
Yeah. That's
Well,
right.
it was just a stray thought.
No, it's interesting. You raised a question which I never thought about. Okay. No, I don't think so. But remember also that he has the power to dissolve his own being. Okay, he can manifest and he cannot. Why should that be necessary? Because he may feel that the work I have come down for has been done, so he will withdraw. And the work is 100,000 million things to be done in the physical world. So each supramental being will have its function. So if that function is completed, they may decide to return again to the supramental world. Okay, it's possible. So we'll stop here today and have a nice day, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.